Hello, this is Tim Trable. I am going to go through the process that I went through as I was building my electric brew controller. I have taken some pictures along the way and hope to have a decent slideshow showing some of the different steps I went through. I don't have everything in here as times I forgot to take some pictures, but I hope it gives you an idea what it takes to build one of these things. I know it's worth the effort. I brewed with it a couple times now, and I'm really pleased. Here are the parts and pieces that I'm going to be using to create my brew controller. Up on the top of the board, I've got the 4-prong 30-amp dryer cord, also the power relay for when I turn the whole system on and off, an LED light to show power. Working down, I've got some terminal strips, and you'll notice I've got each of those wired with 10 gauge wire, color coded of course for the various 240 wires coming out of my panel. Got a couple fuse holders that will be in front of my PIDs over here. I've got couple SSRs, then some just 2-throw relays. Got the MYPIN PIDs, XLR connector, and an XLR outlet, on-off switch for this particular PID. Got a 120 volt twist lock L520, I believe, outlet and plate. Over here I've got an L630 240 volt outlet and plate. Similar setup here. Got the PID, SSR, XLR connectors. Over here I've got another 240 outlet with a variable controller, not digital, that will adjust the power going to that outlet. Here I got my 2 pump outlets with on-off switches, and then various connectors. This is a pretty good sampling of what's going to go into it. I'll have a few other things added in. I got, of course, wiring to connect everything together, and 1 or 2 other things that I might be added, but that's the gist of it. What we're looking at here is the initial first part of the box build. You can see my box is wooden plywood. I put biscuits on it to hold everything together, and brads in the corners and on the bottoms to hold the bottom on. Inside the box you'll see 4 bus bars. 1 for each wire coming out of my cord. The cord is standard 4-prong 30-amp dryer cord, and you'll see how it is attached inside and outside of the box. Here we see the top panel of the box with all the holes drilled for all the switches and lights and PIDs, and the back panel I had to route out the holes so that the switches would extend past the front panel. The plywood's 3/4 inch plywood, and the stems on the switches are only about 3/8, so I had to take my little rotozip and route out a bunch of wood from the back side of the panel to recess the switches into it. Alright, here is the box with the front with everything installed on it. I got the PIDs and the SCR on-off switches, the plugs for the temperature sensors, and all the little lights. I also, prior to this, put a coat of stain and a couple coats of polyurethane on the box inside and out to protect it should any moisture splash up on it. Here's the inside of the box, and it has all the relays installed. You can see the back of the PIDs and the SCR and the fan on the right hand side, and it's ready for wiring. At this point, the only thing left to install in the box physically, other than wiring, are the 4 outlets. Here you'll see me starting the wiring process. This is the main power relay, and you'll notice I used squeeze-on disconnects and spade terminals on the wires. I also soldered the connectors to the wires so that they wouldn't come undone. Also, because this is for the most part 10 gauge stranded wire, you have to solder it. Even the solid wire that I had used in other things here, I soldered them to the disconnects too. Now what you're going to see is me skipping way ahead, and this picture shows the final wiring and everything pretty much completed. I got to tell you, this took hours and hours. I bet I've got at least 20 hours into wiring this thing, and with all the cables, I wire tied things together. You'll notice, well, I don't know if you can see from this picture, but the brass hinges, when I went to close the lid with all the wires, the little short 3/4 inch or half-inch screws that come with the hinges did not want to hold them in place and kept coming out and eventually stripped. I ended up going out and buying some 1.5 inch long brass screws for those hinges and screwing it way down into the plywood, and that's held it in place really nice. Here's the schematic that I drew up for the controller build. I based this on an Instructable called Homebrew Controller on the Cheap, and modified it considerably based on my situation. I have a single 30 amp circuit, and the one that was in the Instructable had a larger amperage circuit so they could run both elements at the same time. I cannot do that when one is on 240 and one is on 120, so I did have to build some additional things into the circuit so that if I needed to run both elements at once, they both had to run at 120 volts instead of 240, or 120 and the other 240. Even that wouldn't work with the 30 amp circuit. Here's a schematic for the SCR voltage regulator circuit. It is a separate circuit from the 2 PID circuits. I did it this way so I can leave the PID circuits turned on the 120 volt side and still use the temperature sensor to monitor the temperature of the boil kettle while I have it running at 240 volts on the SCR. I have on here the wiring for connecting the temperature sensor into the PID. I did use the RTD100 sensors, which are supposed to be more accurate, PT100 sensors, sorry, that are supposed to be more accurate than the K-styles. It takes a little bit of jumpering on the MYPIN PIDs that I have. Also, a word of warning, with the MYPIN PD4 controller, or TD4 controller, the wiring diagram that is on the paper in the box is different from the wiring diagram on the controller itself. I didn't realize this until I was troubleshooting and going through the process of testing the controller, and I found out that the SSR output polarity is reversed on the piece of paper they give you from the sticker on the PID. Wire by the sticker on the PID itself, it's right. I'm lucky I didn't blow my relays, my SSRs, because of that. Here's the controller, all finished. Here it is with the temperature sensors plugged in, powered up, and the HLT boil switch on the HLT side so it's running at 120 volts on both sides. Here I have the HLT boil switch on the boil side. You'll notice it has turned off the RIMS side so that I can only run 240 volts exclusively. Here I have the 4 power outlets. On the far left is the L520 120 volt RIMS PID outlet. Then next to it is the L630 240 volt hot liquor tank boil PID outlet. Then the 240 volt L630 SCR voltage regulator with the rotary control knob outlet. And then my 2 switched pump outlets on the far right. Then if you look around the corner, you do see the fan sticking out. That circulates air into it. And here you'll see the vents showing the air exit holes. And the hinge is up on top. Now I've got the 240 volt input. And again, that's a 30 amp ground fault interruptible circuit. This slide shows how I set up the hangers to put it on my wall. I took 1x4, ripped it down the middle at a 45-degree angle, and put half of it on the wall and half of it on the back of the controller box. And you can see that the points are down and out on the controller box and up and out on the wall, so it just sits down on top of the grooves. I then have put a board in between the upper and lower brackets to lock it in place so you can't lift it up unless you really want to. Very sturdy and a very good way to hang anything on a wall. Well, there you have it. I hope this was instructable and you got something out of it. I did enjoy doing this project. I have now brewed 3 batches on it, and I'm still learning the best ways to use it and how the PIDs work, but so far I'm really happy with the way it's turned out, and I'd highly recommend building one of these for yourself if you have the ambition.